and gentlemen, welcome to Page City Council's regular City Council meeting. It's October 22nd, 2018. It's 6:30 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you please all join me, we'll stand for a moment of silence and follow with the pledge. Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Cormier, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please do roll call?
Councillor Bryan. Councillor McNutt. Councillor Tappan.
Here.
Councillor Cormier.
Here.
Councillor Warner.
Excused.
Vice Mayor Kojan.
Here.
Mayor Diak.
Here. Priority list discussion, possible action by City Council pertaining to City Council strategic priorities. Anyone wish to bring up anything on their priority list this evening? None. Discussion and possible action by City Council pertaining to City Councilors' individual priorities.
Mayor, I just have a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Just like to say we've opened our new substation down at John C. Park, and that was my first initiative, and that was grand opening was Thursday. Went very well, and I want to thank Kyle Public Works for the nice job cleaning that building up, making it very, very nice and back up to speed again. I'd like to thank the IT guys for getting the comms set up and hooked into our CAD system, so our PD can now have a secondary station to patrol. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to bring up anything on their strategic priority list? Seeing none, moving on. Minutes, I'd entertain.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Those members present. The consent agenda. The consent portion of the agenda is a means of expediting routine matters that must be acted upon by council. All items approved will be done by one undebatable motion passed unanimously. Any item may be removed from debate on request of any member of council. Items removed from the consent portion of the agenda become the first item of business under the regular agenda. Is there anyone?
Move to approve the consent portion of the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Those members present. Hear from the citizens. Hear from the citizens. Time is reserved for citizens to comment on non-agenda items that are within the council's jurisdiction. Personal attack on council members, city staff, or members of the public are not allowed. It is inappropriate to utilize this time for purposes of making political speeches, including threats of political action. Persons speaking shall observe the rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct, and refrain from impertinent topics, repetitive comments, slanderous remarks, or personal attacks. Engaging in such conduct will be grounds for ending the speaker's time at the podium or for removal of any disruptive person from the meeting. City Council cannot discuss or take legal action on matters during the hear from the citizens. However, at the conclusion of the hear from the citizens, individual members of councils may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed council, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address council, if you'd raise your hand, I'll recognize you, and if you'll come to the podium and give us your name and address, that is, time is yours. Yes, sir?
Hi, I'm Joe Lapicus, Lake Powell Paddleboards and Truck Skin. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My address is 836 Vista. My comment, or what I'd like to ask the council to address in the future would be to look how to make our city a little more food truck friendly. Many places I've traveled to over the course of the last few years, and just recently I was in Flagstaff for a day, and in that day I counted 8 food trucks parked in and around the city in different places. And Page doesn't have that. There's great opportunity here. I personally don't want to own a food truck. I want nothing to do with it. But I'd like to see them encouraged for certain activities, maybe evenings along the Lake Powell Boulevard, maybe even a food truck park over there alongside where the empty lot across from by the hospital. So just something to look at for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir?
This will amaze you, but I will be brief. I just wanted to make one comment real quick, and that's that I've really appreciated working with the folks here in the city of Page. The city staff has always treated me exceptionally nice. Kyle's operation over there has been a fabulous organization to work with. You've got some great people on the staff. Looking forward to not being here, but I've already had an invitation to join the volunteer fire department in Casa Grande. It's actually a district. But I really have enjoyed working with all of you folks, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Larry, we're going to miss you also. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Anyone else wish to address council this evening? Seeing none, moving along. Discussion, possible action by City Council pertaining to City Council's 2019 legislative agenda. Mike.
Mayor Dyak, members of the council, I guess I'm up here so that I can represent my colleagues as well to the right. And I'm asking for you to consider this agenda item before you as we've gone through a workshop session regarding our state legislative agenda. So tonight I'm asking for some memorializing the agenda so that we can move forward and utilize this piece as some talking points representing the city of Page down at the legislature for the session that starts January 14th. What I want to do, bring back as a result of our workshop, is a little bit on the state shared revenue. You all asked me what represents that pie, and if I can legislature, and we're on defense in trying to keep this pot of money. This is population generated. There's also other components added to the formula, but the cost and the major issues on this is the population. So the reason why I'm saying that is because in the coming year we are going to be going through our census, redoing our census. So that's how important this piece is. Please. So with that said, I wanted to bring back this pie and explain a little bit of what this means and the money that's involved in the services that we utilize, for our state shared revenue. We've got a total of almost $3 million. If you look at our pie chart there, we've got some focus on HERF and on urban shared revenue. Let me tell you a little bit about what these represent. In our VLT, you'll notice that that's vehicle license tax, and what we do there is every time a vehicle is registered annually or renewed, a portion of that tax is calculated and it's collected and is forwarded to the city of Page. They're calculated at 60% on your vehicle purchase price, and are reduced each year by a little over 16% on each registration. The other piece of the pie, and a big portion of it, is our HERF funds, and that is collected through the state through fuel excise tax that are paid at the gasoline pump. So a lot of times you're going to hear communities or bigger cities say, let's increase the gas tax, because this is where they feel that they can address transportation needs, infrastructure, arterial roads maybe in their communities. But this is where a big portion of the HERF fund comes from. The city uses this for cost in the general fund that allows more dollars to be reserved for spending on much-needed roads and improvements with other cities. If you recall in my workshop, I said I thought we had utilized this for personnel, but here we don't do that. Other cities do, but according to what I was informed is that it's a practice here that the council has made the decision to utilize this in a different way. Regarding our sales tax, it's 5.6% of the tax is on purchases made in our city. So this is a big piece of state shared revenue. And with the growing number of what's happening here with our industries, whether it's the tourists, whether it's our service base, whether it's our manufacturing, these are percentages that are critical for us. We utilize the service for police and fire, community services, and community development. And finally, the last portion of the pie is our urban shared revenue. It's an initiative that was passed by the voters in 1972 that provided a percentage of individual corporate tax income tax. And it's a collection. It's received by the city of Page and used to pay for services that are offered to our community. So what do we do with these tax dollars we receive? We'll take a look at these categories, and I won't list them all, but you think about public library facility, you think about city maintenance programs, airport maintenance, and general government services. With that, Mayor and members of the council, I'd like to move forward for approval of the agenda item.
Any discussion? Questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the city's Page's 2019 legislative agenda.
I'll second. Any further question or discussion? If not, call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Those members present. Thank you, Mike. The next item of business is under new business, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this time and ask council's indulgence, and I'd like to take item 1 from I'd like to take item 17.1 and move it up to this particular time. Under boards and commissions, we have an item discussion by City Council pertaining to a certificate of achievement for a scholarship award recipient from the Page Substance Abuse Task Force. I'm asking council's indulgence to move that forward so that we might take care of that in a timely manner, because other than that, it is the next to the last item on the end of the agenda. And I would like to have people here to see the recipient. I'd like to move that forward. Okay. Let me get to my item and we'll get that done. This is a from Substance Abuse Task Force Recognition Certificate. At the September 19th, 2018 meeting, the Page Substance Abuse Task Force voted unanimously to award a $500 scholarship to a qualified undergraduate or graduate student who wished to pursue a career in addiction-related studies. The scholarship idea was born out of a growing need for qualified mental health professionals to help those with addiction and co-occurring disorders. The Substance Abuse Task Force voted to award a maximum of 4 of these educational scholarships per year in the amount of $500. At the October 17th, 2018 meeting, the Page Substance Abuse Task Force awarded a $500 scholarship to applicant Jenny Lassen, who wrote a compelling essay and is pursuing an associate's degree in applied sciences, majoring in addiction and substance abuse disorders at Rio Salado College. Since Abuse Task Force is here, and so is Jenny, and we would like to go ahead and honor her with giving her that certificate, and there is also a check with that is made out to Rio Salado. So, Jenny, if you down there. I guess we'll go ahead and under new business, discussion possible action by City Council pertaining to update by Economic Development Department.
Mayor Dyak, members of the council, this has been a project we've been working on for the past couple of months in trying to come up with a balance to sort of keep pace or sort of catch up to our tourism industry. Economic development is that link that we've got to look at, and we're looking for areas like, for example, industry clusters. What do we want as far as industries here? Small businesses. We need to answer the questions. Why would a person want to open a business in Page? What incentives can we provide in Page? And we're going to be addressing some of this evening to sort of help us walk through. On the overview, when you get your presenter in front of you, when I'll talk about Bill, keep in mind that we're looking at work sessions to sort of flush, increase, add, delete, whatever we need so that it represents the city of Page. With that said, I'd like to introduce an individual who's been working with me, with our colleagues here at the city, that has come with a wealth of experience in his cities that he's been able to work with as far as the city manager capacity as well. His expertise is in economic development. An example of projects that Mr. Pupo has brought has been the Major League training facility and teams of the Texas Rangers and the Kansas City Royals. So that's that's like a big picture, but there are other areas in Mr. Pupo's repertoire that we'll be hearing tonight. But Bill comes to us by way of a city manager in Washington, here in Arizona in particular, the city of Surprise, Chino Valley, and he's sort of helped these communities sort of track fast a little bit into the economic development. And he's been on board with us here trying to flush out and understand the history, of course.
I'm Bill Pupo, and please interject with any questions along the way. We'll keep this very informal. I want to thank the staff and the audience here for being here as well. And I need to tell you, I've lived in Arizona for 18 years, and as Mike said, I was city manager in Surprise and Chino Valley, and then I did some interim work for some other communities here in Arizona. And this, I think, is my third time to Page, and it's just unbelievably shocking to me, the beauty of what you have here in terms of the natural resources that you have, and then the recreational amenities that you have, and the look and the fabric of the community. And I mean, I wish I'd have known about it sooner. I mean, it's just such a delightful place to be. The climate is wonderful. I started coming up when it was very hot down in the valley, so of course the climate was very attractive. But just the natural beauty that you have here, and the seasons that you have and the opportunities that you have are just so striking to me. As Mr. Celaya said, we've kind of done an overview, an assessment, a city manager assessment of what's going on in Page from an economic standpoint. And we know you have a very fine housing study that's been done and many housing challenges. You've got the Navajo generating station that's going to be mothballed here very soon, and about 255 jobs, a large payroll, and a large part of your community that's either directly or indirectly involved with the economics that that plant generates and the economics that are going to go away from that plant. You've got huge opportunities with the greater Block 17, as I call it, starting down here at the north and moving to the south all the way up to the high school campus. I could just envision all of that being tied together with passive walkways, with off-street parking, gazebos, restaurants, entertainment, benches, landscaping, lighting, entertainment at night. Your airport absolutely amazes me. The number of foreign languages that I've heard in that airport is beyond belief to me. I mean, you don't hear that in Phoenix at Sky Harbor, at least in the terminals that I'm at, but You have a huge international tourist destination business here. I was in Subway today, down by the Burger King. I don't know all the street names yet, but number of foreign languages that I was hearing in Subway was just amazing to me. The economic potential that the airport creates for you with the land mass that you own and the planning that you're going to be doing not only from an aviation standpoint but a marketing and economic standpoint. Private aviation brings a wealth of dollars to the community for people that come here to recreate, come here to your resorts, come here to just get out of the valley is amazing to me. And spent a little time talking to Kyle, and some of the names that he was mentioning, those are very wealthy names out of the valley that are spending a lot of money out here. So your airport and its opportunities create a major focus and challenge for the city of Page. Incentives become an opportunity for the city of Page in competing with other cities, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And then we just kind of looked at, as we're driving around, as we're talking to staff, talk to the mayor, the types of projects and things that might need to happen here to reposition Page in a lot of different ways for the global economy that you're in. And believe me, when you say global economy and the number of foreign languages that are being spoken here and the amount of foreign investment that's going on in Page, you are a major player in that global economy. And then, most of all, you need a plan. You need to know where you're at and where you're going. And this is the start of that. And I commend Mr. Celaya and the mayor and council for taking this on. I had a chance to review your housing study, and that's very well done, and it's very direct and to the point about what you need to do in terms of developing family wage housing, workforce housing, and seasonal housing. And there's opportunities in how you do that with developers, there's a new trend going on in the valley, and Mike mentioned Major League Baseball. I know of three of the teams that are getting into the dormitory business. They bring these young ball players in out of high school and out of the draft in college in June to their spring training facilities before they assign them back out to their minor league teams, and they need places to stay. And right now they're putting them in hotels, in 2s and 3s, and sharing hotel rooms. And they're thinking about working with developers that do dormitory housing for these ball players and getting a piece of that action, if you will, back in terms of income and revenue themselves to the team. And that may be consideration you want to look at in working with your partners at the National Park Service, the hospitality industry that's here, and creating that seasonal housing opportunity. And then the funding mechanisms that go with that. There's a myriad of local, state, and federal incentives that might help you accomplish that. We briefly mentioned the Navajo Generating Station and its economic impact to Page. There's about a $51 million annual impact to Page. That translates to about a payroll of $34 million, and that includes operation and maintenance, the goods and services that are purchased in and around Page. And then you look at 147 additional jobs in and around Page that are created over and above the payroll at the plant. And the plant generated about 266 jobs. So that's a large number of jobs that are going to be going away, and that includes taxes that are generated from those jobs, both indirect and direct, as well as taxes that are going to the school district in terms of property tax and so forth. There's some concepts that we're going to show you later on in the presentation related to Greater Block 17. But the strategy that Mr. Celaya is considering is convening the property owners and the businesses that are in and around Block 17 and having them assess where they're at today and where they want to be tomorrow. And that could be anything in terms of facade improvements, streetscape, the parking issues that are associated with that. In one city, I'll show you that address that challenge with the municipal parking garage. We'll get to that in a little bit. Open and leisure spaces, entertainment areas, as well as additional retail and entertainment opportunities for the tourist and the resident that lives here. the last thing you want your residents doing is going somewhere else to spend their money. I remember when I was in Spokane and the downtown wasn't as developed and vibrant as it is today, we used to kid ourselves that, hey, we got visitors coming in from Chicago. What are you going to do with them? Well, we're going to take them over to northern Idaho and let them hang out at the lakes and have some fun there and enjoy the restaurants there. That trend is reversed, and it's somewhat similar when you live in the west side of the valley and you got visitors coming. So what are you going to do with your visitors? Well, now you can say we're going to go to Westgate, we're going to go to Tolleson, we're going to go to Peoria, but it used to be when I moved here, we're going to go to Scottsdale. You know, we're going to spend our money elsewhere. And there's a lot of ways of visualizing and strategizing opportunities for that greater Block 17, both from a public and private financing standpoint. And one of the things that Mr. Celaya has initiated under your direction and guidance is a business expansion and retail survey, a retention survey, to ask businesses their opinions about their business in Page and what it's going to take for them to enhance their business, retain their business, develop their business and product lines even further. There are concepts that are being used in the Valley and business improvement districts, other types of improvement districts, and you have a planning process that's going to take place here December 3rd and 4th with the American Institute of Certified Planners. They're being brought in on grant money through the AICP that'll convene the community and the business owners in strategizing and visualizing the improvements and the enhancement in your greater Block 17 and in your downtown. And the flyer is here, and I'm sure Mr. Celaya will share this flyer with you if he hasn't done so already. Page Municipal Airport, it needs not only an aviation master plan update, but also you need to take a look at the economic impact that the surrounding land creates for non-aviation purposes. It's a potential economic engine for the city of Page. At one time, and I haven't checked this number, but 3 or 4 years ago, I heard that the Scottsdale Airport is directly attributable to 6,000 jobs in the city of Scottsdale. And the city's airport, that Scottsdale Airport, started out very small back in the early days, but it's a major economic engine to the city of Scottsdale now in terms of the number of jobs that it's created. And your airport has that potential too, given the surrounding land and perhaps even the acquisition of land in the future. You have that second floor at the airport that most of it is vacant, but creates a business opportunity for the city as well as for the entrepreneur. You could put a business assistance center in there. You could allow businesses with favorable leases to locate there while they're starting their business elsewhere in the city of Page. You could create a partnership with Coconino County's Workforce Development Program, Coconino Community College Workforce Training Program, that you can create all those business assistant resources in one-stop shopping for that business entrepreneur right at your airport in that second floor. Now, there's some ADA challenges that need to be addressed, but I mean, with challenges, we like to take on challenges and resolve those challenges, and that's something doable. Contour Airlines has created major economic opportunities and connectivity for you and to the rest of the region with Phoenix, Las Vegas, Santa Barbara, et cetera. I mean, keeping that airline here and growing that airline's passenger count along with the private aviation count continues to expand that economic opportunity that you have. And part of the strategy too is creating an economic business development council that includes the business community, that includes residents, so they're part of this planning and strategizing process on how Page will grow and develop. The challenges that we see in Page, and these are the big picture, 30,000. The closing of the NGS, workforce housing and the seasonal housing issues that you have here, the availability of housing for the family wage employee that lives here, the exporting of your students that graduate from high school and then don't have the opportunities to come back. Right now, I would venture to say that your young people are probably your largest export out of the area, going somewhere else for education and going somewhere else to work because they don't have the opportunity to come back here. Within the original page, if you will, you're going to be dealing soon with aging infrastructure. But you have plans through your capital improvement program to address that. But you also have challenges with new infrastructure. You're very blessed as a community with the amount of land that the city of Page owns. And when you think about what strategies and incentives do I need to compete with other communities in northern Arizona or globally, your land ownership is one of the biggest incentives that you have. And if you know anything about, building your own home or running your own business, land costs provide a high dollar factor in that equation as to whether you can build or not build, whether you're talking about a house or you're talking about a business. So the fact that you can incentivize a home builder, a developer, commercially or residentially, with the land ownership that you have, you're controlling your own destiny with that many, many other cities don't have that opportunity to control their destiny. So that creates an opportunity or a challenge for you to making sure you have shovel-ready sites that are served by water, sewer, dry utilities like electric and so forth, and transportation. You need transportation in and out of these sites. And then you want to create at Greater Block 17 in a thriving downtown center that also includes single-family and multifamily housing to create that 24-hour downtown where people can live, work, and play. The opportunities are your town center, creating business development programs, community development in terms of leveraging your natural resources here, your Grand Canyon, Glen Canyon Dam, Horseshoe Bend, Lake Powell, into further branding them as international tourism destinations. Whether you want to think about yourself as an international tourism destination center, you are. It happened to you. And again, it's just if you hang out at the airport for an hour waiting for a flight, or just want to go ahead and hang out at the airport for an hour and go sit in the subway during noon hour, I mean, the number of foreign languages here are just amazing to listen to. And when you talk about community development, and we'll show this in a little bit, you're talking about streetscape and street furniture. You're talking about improvements to walkability of your sidewalks, places where people can sit and relax, the lighting features that go with that, the landscaping features that go with that, places where people become comfortable with the community in that town square. And then continuing to promote and developing and marketing your brand here, which right now is your tourism brand. Your assets are many. Your town center, your equestrian, your trails and open spaces, your potential for new infrastructure, your affordable land, and your national, international tourism destination center. Mr. Celaya and I have talked about possible key initiatives and goals for you all to consider. And this is just an overview tonight. You're going to have a chance to process this, tear it apart, beat it up, add to it, subtract from it, but creating your own economic vision as you move ahead from tonight in terms of where you want to position Page from today to tomorrow. But some of the ideas are again, the business development where you attract private investment here and create job opportunities, the entrepreneurship, working with your partners at the chamber, at Coconino Community College, at the county, enhancing further that international destination, creating economic foundations, infrastructure, the town center, recognizing the past to the present and preserving that history of Page at the same time, and again, the overall marketing and promotion both from tourism as well as general business development. You're going to want to create an economic development strategy. You're going to need that roadmap. And all of you in this room will have a piece of that. Let me just go back here real quick here and hit it. Some of the industry clusters that you would want to consider would not only be the tourism, hotel, restaurant, but manufacturing, call centers, light technologies that, when I got to Surprise, there was a story going around back in 2000 that the head of technical writing for Microsoft lived in Wickenburg. Now, whether that was true or not, I don't know. But it was conceivable and possible back then, and it is today, because people telecommute to their place of employment. I mean, yeah, we're still building shells, brick and mortar, for employment centers, but a lot of the talent and skilled workers that are necessary are not only coming from your community, but they could be telecommuting from the Valley, from Salt Lake, from Los Angeles, from Seattle. Whether that story was true about the head of technical writing from Microsoft, I don't know. But it makes sense. It can be done, and it is being done now. Some of the action steps that you'll consider are that tourism and marketing plan and a related budget to implement that, a funded economic development strategy to promote business expansion and retention, to seek partnerships with established industries in Page, such as the utility district, the school district. You're very blessed to have, and I see you with a banner, your Banner Health there on your shirt. You're blessed to have Banner Hospital here. Banner is the largest private employer in Arizona with 50,000 employees. And the resources, the knowledge, the science, the medical technology they can bring to Page, both now and in the future, will help support growth and development of Page, as well as create spin-off industries. Other partners are the Navajo Nation, as I mentioned, the community colleges, and don't forget NAU, ASU, and the Arizona Commerce Authority all have interests in, through telecommunication and the internet, in providing services here. And if you look at ASU's growth, I mean, they're in Havasu, they're in Payson, they're in the West Valley, but students can be reached now all over the world. I hear people sometimes say, kind of tongue-in-cheek, we need to recruit locally. We need to put it on our internet and on our website and recruit locally. You're recruiting globally whether you want to or now, once you advertise something on your internet, on your website. And then you need to partner with your public finance tools and also private funding mechanisms to upgrade your public and private facilities here as Page continues to evolve. I'm going to show you some examples of what some other communities have done. Santa Fe, Mesa, Glendale, Peoria, Tolleson, in terms of revitalizing their existing community, re-strategizing the direction of their community. Let's see, is this me now? Okay, here we go. So, we're talking about affordable workforce housing. We're talking about housing for teachers, for the occupations that are within the hospital, the nurses, the seasonal employees. These are tiny houses. They're 1 and 2 bedroom houses that are being built around the valley. They're being built in rural areas to accommodate these issues of nursing, teachers, and hospital staffing issues and medical staffing issues. And if you look at them, they're 500-600 square feet, maybe even smaller than this. But very nicely done. You can see in the background here, and I can use the arrow and be real sharp about this. And the arrow's not going to light up. Anyway, I'll just point to it. But you can see a multifamily housing right behind this single-family leased workforce housing. And these are some of the elevation and the appearances of these homes that are very attractively done and that are now becoming the wave. Recreational amenities, again. This one happens to be in Chandler. You wouldn't think with Chandler, with Intel and Orbital and some of the other major high-tech employers, that this would be a challenge. But you think about it, it is a challenge when the price of housing, single-family and multifamily, is going up. You know, you got teachers trying to commute across the valley to get into Chandler, nurses, same thing. Some of the higher looks of densities, appearances of construction, the 3D design. Okay. Ian and I are doing a good job of synchronizing our time. Tolleson, right off of I-10 and the 101. Started out as a migrant community, big in citrus, cotton, And it's transitioned now to a distribution center. But yet they've retained the old town charm, the families that still reside there from day one, and they've gone through a $10 million downtown improvement of streetscape, street furniture, landscaping, and art. And here, if you kind of notice, the improvements they've made on their sidewalk, bike paths, the landscaping, the antique lighting. You notice the building that says income tax on it. Goes back many, many years to the new construction or the updated construction redevelopment of the project across the street from it. The informational signage that goes with that. They've made their downtown very friendly. They've made their downtown a place to go after work, to walk the children and push the baby buggies and go out and have some ice cream and have a little bit of dinner and those kind of things. You look at Mesa. I remember downtown Mesa in the year 1999 and 2000. I mean, there was nobody there. There was nobody there. And slowly, with the investment of their Performing Arts Center, the light rail, downtown Mesa has an ASU going there now, is going through a major renaissance. And again, you notice the streetscaping, the street lighting, the street furniture, the investment that the private properties have made in their property to enhance their property. This is Santa Fe, downtown Santa Fe, a very busy city of 80,000 people, but this is old Santa Fe, and the congestion that the tourists create there caused the city to build its own parking garage and fit it into the design of the original city square of Santa Fe. This is Old Town Glendale. Old Town Glendale branded itself as an antique district. Now it's kind of transitioning to an entertainment district a little bit. Antiques are kind of moving away and entertainment's kind of moving in. But there again, you look at the brick paving, the antique lighting, the landscaping, the improvements that building owners have made to their properties, the ability to sit, enjoy a meal, enjoy a beverage. This is Old Town Peoria, leading into their city hall, which was built, if I recall correctly, in the late 80s, early 90s. But again, you look at the street improvements that have been made, paving, curbing, sidewalk, the antique lighting, the landscaping that goes with that, the Performing Arts Center. Again, I'm not going to minimize the dollars, but I mean, you look at simple aesthetic improvements, again, like the street lights, the brick pavers, it just enhances the livability and quality of life and the perception of the area. Now here, go quickly. There we go. When we talk about economic development incentives, the list is a mile long. The list can include incentives from the federal and state government, regional incentives that may come through Coconino County, such as the Community Development Block Grant. Mike and I have strategized a list of possible local incentives that you all can talk about at a future date. You're improving your permitting system and looking at a 5-day building permit program through Jerry and Mike, and customizing that more and getting projects to the street, so to speak. There's financing tools that are in state law, like the GPLET, the Government Property Lease Excise Tax, facade improvement programs, improvement districts, Industrial Development Authority, and again, what I believe to be your biggest asset and your biggest incentive is the amount of land you own and how you plan to use that land. Now, I want to talk to you quickly and show you a video that appeared on CBS this morning about the challenges of workforce housing.
This morning in our series, Full Matters, we're taking a look at teachers' salaries. Educators in 5 states walked off the job earlier this year, demanding higher pay and increased school funding. The latest was after 4-5 people struggling to make ends meet in Arizona. The governor is approved a 20% pay raise over 3 years. Jimmy just went back to see what changed and how one school district is getting creative to help people. came down here. And I don't feel opposed to that. And I didn't feel like I was. Recognizing the housing problem, the Vail Unified School District purchased this 5-acre lot for 2 dozen tiny homes. The district will charge $125 a month for the land and utilities, but the teachers will own the home, paying around $600 a month, half the cost of the average mortgage in Vail.
We have to be aggressive in pursuing all avenues that we can to attract and retain high-quality teachers. So we feel that this is one of those ways.
Arizona ranks last in the nation for elementary school teacher salaries. And while those who walked out and last spring's Red for Ed movement did succeed in raising pay, teachers say more change is needed. So last year we were looking about 30 salaries, and this year we're looking about 30. Do you feel it? Yeah, it depends on, but it's the cost of living to staff and teaching salaries is going to fall. Broken down, Sherry's 10% raise amounts to about $50 extra a week. It's so thoughtful. You know what other professionals do. We first met Mr. Laura Mayer last spring, and again during the statewide walkout. Because individual districts decide how to use state money, Mayor only received a 5% raise. She's among the estimated 20% of teachers who work a local job to supplement their income. To not feel like our needs go before it comes out. I don't think that's the important. Mayor says one way to see real change would be for state leaders to raise taxes. Everybody I know says teachers need to be paid more, and they truly feel that. But real change from people who are in a position to do something about it is not happening. So there's a disconnect. Yeah. We put so much of our time and effort and load and ourselves into children and into education and into our schools, and for the government, they need to be putting that back in that. But until there are big changes at the state level, districts are starting small. For CBS Reporting, Jean Lucas, Vail, Arizona.
And the issue in Vail is that district decided, as you heard, to sell the home to the teacher. The house, the same house that I showed you in Surprise, is on a monthly lease, and that's how the developer is going to keep that property, and that's part of the CC&Rs. In Chandler, I didn't have time to find out how that development is done, whether it's for sale or under lease, but I can tell you in Surprise, it's on a leased basis. So again, you own the land, and you have opportunities as to how you strategize and use the land. And of course, developers will come in here and buy land as well. There'll be private property owners that want to sell their land, but hopefully this gives you, in concluding, some ideas and thoughts to have discussions with your city manager and staff and the community in how you plan your economic direction today forward into the future, while also preserving what you have today from the past. And with that, I'll entertain any questions or comments or thoughts, Mr. Swire.
Mayor and council too. This is everything we're presenting tonight is concept. Just some best practices that are going around in our own state, and practices that are being copied out to other states now. But these practices are changing by the month, and we're finding out a little bit more. The city of Mesa has been very robust and very aggressive in how they're working with their community. They even have a utility rate program for small businesses, where for 3 years they will bypass the utilities, water, electricity, to entice the small business to come into segments of their downtown area. But every community is different in how they promote, how they entice people to come. Here in the city of Page, we have a lot of possibilities, but we will explore a lot what Mr. Pupil has presented tonight, break it down into work sessions as to how we want to move forward. But I can't say enough, the concept behind some of this that could apply in the future to the city of Page.
Anyone have questions? Mike, I have one question about incentives. Been on council for a while, John has, and in the past, and we've kind of thought about incentives and stuff. We've heard that there's rules, the state of Arizona has tough rules about offering incentives to developers and stuff like that. So now I'm hearing a different theme coming out. So maybe you might enlighten me a little bit about
Well, the
that.
biggest, I think, wedge that was provided to communities and so like Page was the gift clause. You have to get around that gift clause issue. But I think these are practices that are not so much around it, but are part of what we can engage in. The city of Maricopa has a slew of incentives we need to look at, because I think those are applicable to the city of Page. But the sky is the limit in us developing our own incentives and what works best here. Are there still some reservations? Absolutely. Are there still restrictions? Sure. But Bill and I would not bring anything forward that is a restriction. It's something that we can at least, in talking a little bit more with our attorney, move forward and see if that's going to be a practice here, if that's something we want to move forward on. But we have to think outside the box here a little bit. We have to answer that question on because that scenario I actually addressed this 2 weeks ago that I spoke on earlier. What incentives does the city have? Why would I want to bring my business here? What separates us from Kanab, from St. George, and from even our neighboring cities, even in Flagstaff? That's our close. But what separates us? What's going to give that individual that decision making to, hey, let's go to Page?
Thank you, Bill, for your presentation and your insight and what you've brought to the table for us to consider and look at. And look forward to having more meetings with council and some workshops and seeing what we can get done. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, this presentation too is for all of you in the crowd and on that's looking on TV or streaming. This is just a start, and we would like the involvement of our community to come forward and assist and sit down, because we have an agency coming out here to work with us on the preliminary development stages of streetscaping and what's going to happen downtown in December. So I invite you all to give us a chance, give us a crack, and come sit down with us. Meetings are going to start forming. I am working with the chamber on visiting our business community. We're doing this business retention survey. We're trying to find out what we need to know, and we know that it's going to come with some obstacles, and I ask you all, bring it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? We'll move along to the next item of business. Discussion possible action by City Council pertaining to early termination of airport lease agreement by Sundance Helicopter, Inc. Kyle.
Good evening, Mayor Dyak and members of the Page City Council. What we have before you is if the council desires, of course, is Sundance Helicopters, as you know, entered into an airport lease agreement back in early May. The term of the lease was 2 years, is 2 years, and Sundance Helicopters requested the lease be terminated effective December 3rd, 2018. The request to terminate the lease does not necessarily indicate the reason for the request to terminate early. I was notified by Sundance that higher up the food chain, if you will, their command is repurposing their asset, hence their helicopter, for other uses. Given that, that's the basis of what I know, and we've invited Russ Faulkner here, representative of Sundance, is in the audience if you have any questions regarding this.
council have any question or consideration?
The lease had a 60-day out clause, is that correct?
It did for specific reasons, not necessarily just to say we can't perform. The city attorney can speak to some of those clauses a little bit better than I can, but the reasons that they give do not necessarily fall into those clauses.
Do you have a question, or do you want Josh to?
Question, or do you want?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I read the lease today quickly, and I was reading some 60-day language. It wasn't really clear after reading it a couple of times. I just wanted to know, how you entered that 60-day.
There's certain conditions. Yeah, there's certain conditions that have to be met in order to invoke that under the terms of the lease for them to cancel it. None of those conditions have been met, so to speak. So it's entirely up to the council whether or not they want to allow for the early termination of the lease.
Kyle, in your opinion, are we going to have any downtime for that particular area, or are we able to release that property in a reasonable short period of time?
Well, I suppose we could, if we did promote that area and market that space available. Generally, we haven't done that at the airport in the past. Given we're on the downside of our season, if you feel like there is an end to our season this year, and we certainly are on the perhaps the downhill slide. But I don't have anyone knocking at the door with recently requested space.
As I recall, when we entered into this lease, there was a second party that was interested in that same piece of or location. Have we reached out to them and had any conversation with?
I have
them?
not yet.
Okay.
Waiting the decision and recommendation from the city council.
Do we know anything?
We need to do something if we are going to terminate that lease, because we sure didn't treat that other guy fair that was interested in the property. When that, in my eyes, I know there was some legal aspect there, but he didn't get a fair deal in how we treated him.
I believe we should reach out to him and have some immediate conversation. I understand that, Sundance has changed their business model a little bit from possibly what they were doing here to something that is not necessarily feasible in this area. So I certainly understand that. In the short term that you've been here, we realize that you've been a good partner. I'd like to ask, is it Phil? Russ, I'm sorry. Russ, if I might ask a question of you, if you could come up. What does 2 years down the road look for you?
That's a great question, and I wish I could predict that with the changing model and in the business and the changing times with our parent company and how we're continuing to redeploy assets. It's a little up in the air right now, and so just to be clear, what we're doing is the asset that was here in Page has been redeployed by our parent company. We're owned by Air Methods, which is the largest air medical company in the United States. They've actually taken that aircraft as part of their air medical fleet and repurposed it for the air medical side of the business, which has left us in a little bit of a pickle, and unfortunately has caused us to have to step out of the Page market. I do want to say that I appreciate everyone here, the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the City Council and the members that we've worked with. It wasn't an easy decision to step out of here, but and unfortunately, when Mom and Dad come and want the car back, you have to give them the car back. So I wish we had a better answer for you and a better, more clear what the future holds. I know as a leadership team we were very excited about Page. We had a lot of inroads. We had a lot of things we were working on with the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of things we were working on with Navajo that were coming to fruition, and some of those things came to fruition faster than we expected. Some delayed a little bit, which I think caused us to not really be able to perform quite as well as we'd have liked here, which in turn led to the asset redeployment. So I wish I could answer your question better on what the future holds, but I'm not super clear on what the future holds. At some point in the future, we would like to come back and attack Page, because I think that there's an opportunity. I mean, you hear from this fine gentleman about the economic development opportunities here. I mean, we see Page as a very viable model, and a opportunity for us to do that again would be something that we would love to do in the future. It's just not viable right now.
Thank you very much, Russ.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else have questions for Russ while he's there?
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, sir. Just for conversation, I would like to have council reach out to the other entity as soon as possible, sooner than later, and inquire about their continued interest in that piece of property and possibly bring them forward so that Russ here can get on with his things. And I think we even have possibly some time enough to get that done where we might be able to have it done by December 3rd. Or we should at least know whether or not we've got a vacant piece of property that we're still looking for a tenant for, or possibly have a lease in hand. Entertain question or discussion.
It's a business decision on your company's part to fully understand, but entering a lease is a business decision as well, and it has teeth for a reason. You know, there's two parties that have competing interests that each have skin in the game, if you will. We have a very special piece of real estate at the airport that you know, costs the city money to operate. So, I mean, I would love to see another tenant fall in there so we could I think the fair thing might be if we can get that thing leased at a similar or equal rate, that we could, as a council, talk about, you know, entertaining shortening that lease. But for us to hold an empty piece of property, I don't think it's fair for the city. It's just, I mean, it's just business. That's my opinion.
Anyone else?
$17,000 is, I mean, I would hate to be that's, in the budget of Page, that's not a whole lot. And with Nickel and Diamond, they could be a good partner in another 2 years.
I think, is it?
It says 17,000. So
Annual. I think he's talking annual.
So I'd move to allow Sundance Helicopters to terminate their lease in Area C in the airport terminal effective December 3rd, 2018.
Well, I would, in order of further discussion, I would second that motion, if we might be able to amend the motion to say that we continue to work toward a lease, and that if there were any downtime, that we might be able to recoup the differences through Sundance during that period of time that we might be negotiating, i.e. if it takes us a month or 2 months to get that done, that we might recuperate those costs from. Thanks. Would you entertain amended motion to that?
I guess how is that motion to read? That was a long statement.
That I would amend the motion to state that we go ahead and allow Sundance to terminate the lease, that based on the fact that if we have any encumbrances or unrented property for a period of time, that they might, we might recoup those costs from them until such time as it was leased and move forward.
I think the way you would do that would be that the lease continues until we either sublet or relet it out, and then at that point we can terminate the lease and they're done with the lease. I think that would.
Yeah, the only method that we have of recouping those costs is if we still have a lease in place.
Right.
So once we terminate the lease, we have no longer have a vehicle to recoup those costs. So I think probably the mechanism, I think, to accomplish what you're talking about is would be a slightly different motion along the lines of that we would terminate their lease as soon as we were able to find a new tenant. And we would start that process tomorrow morning to reach out to parties who have expressed interest in the past to see if they're still interested, and then to try to find a tenant as quickly as possible to go in there as soon as we're able to. There's a process that we have to go through. We'd still have to advertise in the paper for 2 weeks and go through some of the processes that our code requires that we go through, and then at that point, as soon as we got the new tenant in, we would terminate their lease.
We need him to withdraw his, so we don't have to vote on it and follow the attorney's advice, I think.
You have to resolve, remove the second first?
I'll remove my second, and then it would die.
Okay, what the attorney said. I move we continue the lease till we find somebody to take over the lease.
Second. Any further discussion or question? Off the question, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. 3-1. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Discussion possible action by City Council pertaining to updated personnel rules for City of Page resolutions 1217-18.
Good evening, Mayor.
Hang on just a second. You gonna introduce or?
I'm trying to, but I lost my page.
Okay, I'll make a motion to introduce resolution 1217-18 by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and multiple seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please introduce resolution 1217-18?
A resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Page, Coconino County, Arizona, amending provisions of the personnel rules of the city of Page.
Good evening, Mayor.
Rachel.
Yes, that's me. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight. When I was first hired in July of this year, one of the items that was brought to my attention was our personnel rules that have been a bit outdated. It's been 6 years since it was last revised, and I was tasked with getting an updated version completed to present to council. The attorney and the finance director had already gone through the dated policy, and we worked to simplify the rules, deleting sections that are out of date and not practiced, updating some sections. Quite a bit of the change.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, I would entertain.
Move to adopt resolution 121718.
I'll second that. Having a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously of those members present. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Next item of business under bid awards, discussion and possible action by City Council pertaining to award of bid for Horseshoe Bend Improvements Phase 2. Kyle.
Good evening once again, Mayor Dyak and members of the City Council. As you are well aware, we have been progressing quite quickly with the Horseshoe Bend Phase 2 construction project, which is summary is a parking lot expansion and the fee booth construction. As such, we worked and provided an invitation for bid that was published by the city for the Horseshoe Bend Phase 2 project. We included a voluntary pre-bid meeting that we had 5 contractors arrive at. They were there to ask questions of the architect and myself regarding the project. We set the bid date, and 4 of those 5 contractors provided bids. The lowest bidder was B4 Enterprises Incorporated. The base bid from B4 is $2,525,105. Additionally, the council can select 1 or 2 bid alternates. Bid alternate 1 would add landscaping, irrigation, and the associated work at an increased cost of $199,595. Bid alternate 2 would include the addition of a 2-inch decomposed granite cap, if you will, at an additional cost of $25,000. The total project cost, if the council were to add both bid alternates, would be $2,749,700. We did work in conjunction with the architect, Weddell Gilmore. They did review the bids as well for completeness, and they too recommend B4.
I move to award the bid for Horseshoe Bend Phase 2 improvements to B4 Enterprises Incorporated with a base bid of amount of $2,525,105 and include option alternate 1 and 2 for total amount of
$749,700.
Yeah.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further question or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Those members present.
Thank you.
Okay, when are they supposed to be on site and starting to work?
They will receive a notice of award following this meeting, and that'll give them, typically we have 10 days written in the contract for them to produce the signed contract. And as follows our schedule originally provided to City Council, it's anticipated that construction would begin 1st of November, which is a Thursday. So we will work directly with the contractor. Spoke with them earlier today to let them know what the awards the city and making the award. So I will notify him in the morning and proceed as outlined in the contract documentation. We anticipate 10 days to start.
Okay.
And that keeps us on a timeline to be done in the March?
Yes. Anticipated fee collection date of April 1st.
Thank you, Kyle. Business from the mayor, we have none this evening. Under business from the manager, we have one item, which was discussion by City Council pertaining to Next Door Social Network. City managers asked that we pull that item at this time. He was waiting for further information to come in, and it has not come in. He doesn't want to present without having all of the stuff that he needs to make his presentation. So we will pull that item, and as soon as that information is received, we will get that back on the agenda. Next item of business from city attorney. We have none scheduled. We have next item of business is business from council. We have discussion only on a city council pertaining to safe Halloween. In your packets, you have a proclamation that was kind of suggested. The clerk's office and the PD have been receiving some questions as to when trick-or-treating would be happening and how late and when can it start and things like that. We looked at a past proclamation, and you have it in a variation of form before you tonight. The only difference is the old proclamation said until 7 p.m. We had some parents that said that was difficult because by the time they got home from work, it didn't allow them time to take their children trick-or-treating. We have no action on this item this evening, but I would like your input so that we could just we can't enforce it basically. It's just something that the chief can put out there and say, hey, this is suggested and stuff. So I'm asking for your conversation of what council may think about it as written, or what they might recommend or suggest, because it is just that, a suggestion type thing.
I really like the practice of, and if we can get the word out, if the porch light's on, you can knock. If the porch light's off, don't leave that resident. They're out of candy.
9 p.m. reasonable. And some people were saying it was only till 8 o'clock, but that's really cutting it short, I think.
Okay. I think Chief's got information. So, all right. Next item of business is an executive session in Horseshoe Bend. I would like to go ahead and maybe move along, take care of a couple other items that we have. We have two other items. Under boards and commissions, we did take care of the Certificate of Achievement and Scholarship Award. And the only other item is discussion by City Council pertaining to reports of board liaisons. Does anyone have a liaison report for this evening? John?
Yeah, we just had our PUE meeting last week, and we had it filled the one vacancy, and we had a resignation. So now we're needing another person for that board already.
Okay. All right. And likewise, the Substance Abuse Task Force is also looking for a additional person. So with the resignation of Larry Clark, which we knew was coming, he turned that paperwork in last week so he could keep the board moving along, because we've been having some problems with quorum until the very last minute. So Larry turned in his resignation last week. He will be kind of around for the next 15 to 20 days, but not functioning in the capacity there. So we also have a opening on the Substance Abuse Task Force Board, as well as a few other boards that we've had and been running short on. So if there's anyone out there in the audience or over the airways that's interested in being on a board, please submit a application to the clerk's office.
And the PU one is done by resolution, and he's not leaving until December 31st when he's moving, so we have time to get the word out and
yeah, that one has to be advertised by ordinance. But the others, all you need to do is drop by the clerk's office and fill out an application. Any other liaison reports?
I did talk to the community center board members a couple weeks ago, and it was under a different administration, but they had talked about getting rid of the community center board or combining it with library, and they did not like that idea at all, to get rid of the community center board. And then we've had the same problem with quorum, but so I floated the idea, because they're always there at lunchtime, if maybe we could change that meeting time instead of having it in the evenings, have it there during the day. So just something that we could look into, maybe having it when they're actually there. They suggested 3:30. I was hoping they'd say lunch, but.
All right. We'll certainly look into that. So, back to you. I'm sure the clerk's office will get back to you and let you know on that. Anyone else? Okay. Airport board did not meet. They had no agenda items the last meeting. So, that's it. We have a presentation, discussion by City Council pertaining to update community center and recreation departments. Mike.
Mayor, Council, I'm bringing forward our community service department, recreation. There's been an uptick quite a bit in the participation of programs that I think they're going to share. They've got a lot of things moving as they prepare for the holiday season, but more so for the general public to hear a little bit more about these two divisions.
Thank you. Jackie?
Good evening, Mayor Diak and council members. Thank you for this opportunity to give you an update on what's happening in community services. So as you know, community services is composed of recreation, the library, and the community center. And I'm going to begin by talking about what's happening in recreation. And one thing I'd like to mention to you in the mission statement you can see there, our mission is to create recreational opportunities to promote citizen involvement and a strong sense of community. And you might be thinking that this dovetails right along with the For Our City initiative that our mayor and city manager introduced to the community a couple weeks ago. So some things that are happening. For the last few years, there's been nationwide a decrease in youth sports participation. And this is something that 4 years ago, if you looked at Page, this is what was happening, that our participation was decreasing. But at that time, when recreation was moved to community services under Debbie there, that we've made an effort to increase our numbers. So even though the rest of the country is going down, if you look at our numbers for the last 4 years, our participation in youth programs is going up. And you all remember that this past spring that we partnered with the Page Little League Association. When you look at those numbers with what we've been able to provide in combining the softball and the baseball, you have to look back 8 years to have the participants involved at the sports complex that we've had in 2018. Besides the city, the Page Unified School District is our biggest user of our facilities, and I've presented for you there what they're using it for and when they're using it. For our operations, that we spend a significant amount of time in the more hidden operations, such as volunteer management. That we have, for our staff, we have 1 full-time person and 3 part-time people. But for instance, youth soccer, we have about 45 volunteer coaches. Even though they're volunteers, they're an extension of the city, and they're an extension of our staff.
So to be able to provide those high-quality programs, that we're providing them with training, and there's expectations such as completing concussion education training, making sure that everything is consistent with them, so no matter which coach or which league people are participating in, the expectation is going to be the same. They'll have that same good experience. And because those volunteers are spending a significant amount of time, sometimes in a 5-week league they may spend up to 50 hours, that again, you'll remember last year we came to you and we're now able to offer vouchers for a free future registration for the coaches that do complete all of those requirements in their volunteer requirements. Some of our more visible operations are our equipment repair and replacement, as well as some of the improvements and services that we provide. A couple things of note is we just recently have had Wi-Fi installed and are connected to the city servers. That has been huge because we've been able to operate much more professionally than before we had those. We also are involved in our service to the city in providing training for city staff. That in addition to the 3 departments under community services, we've been able to train people from Public Works and from the police department. Our maintenance operations, those are ones that are time intensive, but they're essential. We can't have a softball game without having our fields ready and safe to go. But to give you an idea of time spent in that, to prepare a softball field, which is dragging the dirt in the infield, preparing the outfield, striping, lining, chalking, that can take from 1 to 2 hours. To paint a full soccer field, that takes for one field about an hour of time to do. And what this is some of our memberships, the training that staff participates in, and the certifications we hold, so that we can provide those quality programs, so that we know what's happening and can keep abreast of national trends in youth sports, in safety in sports complexes, and other professional standards, so we can bring those programs that you as well as the community expects in the recreation department. So that is recreation, and I'll hand it over to Debbie to continue with the other departments.
Mayor, Councilman, thank you. The Community Center, we provide lots of programs and activities for all ages. However, we are limited in what we provide because our community service hours are from 10 to 3. 2018, Meals on Wheels. We provided over 2,000 Meals on Wheels. Congregate dining, we provided over 4,000. We provide breakfast and lunch for the Head Start meal program. We also, again, provide programs for our adults, seniors mostly. We do provide teen programming and youth programming, but mostly for homeschooled children. Our operations, we purchased a new oven using city money, but if you look further down there, there's grants and donations. We were able to replace a partial sound system. We replaced an ice machine, a new boardroom furniture. We have new projectors, 3 brand new projectors, and new classroom cooking tables where we're able to offer cooking demonstrations, team cooking classes, and again, these were purchased through grants and donations, so no money from the city for those. Programs and activities. You can see our many programs and activities that we have. Our most popular one is our fitness classes. We have them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we have from anywhere from 22 to 35 participants every night doing Zumba. Again, we are only open from 10 to 3, so there's a big need for adult programming and youth programming. But since we're doing the 10 to 3, kids don't get out of school till 3:30, so it's kind of hard to provide those services. However, we did receive a grant for Teen Rock Band, and I have a great volunteer that is facilitating that program, and that's going to meet Tuesdays and Thursday nights, so we're excited about that new program, again, grant funded. Our library. we provide many services to our community, not only to our community, but to the reservation and to Coconino County and to Utah. We are checking out books to them. We are giving them services. We did change our hours this year to help better fit the community's needs. So we're opening up earlier on Monday and later on Saturday. We have some stats here for you. We had 163,531 visits to our library last year. That's about between 500 and 600 people a day. We now have Wi-Fi hotspot checkouts. So for 3 days in May and the whole month of June, we checked out 79 mobile hotspots, free to our public. Again, that was a grant-funded program that we're offering. Our teen program have decreased the last 2 years, and so have our adult programs due to staffing, but you guys did, thank you to you. We were able to hire a teen library aide, and so we're hoping those numbers will be increasing this year. There's a whole list of events and programs that the library provides with many different partners. Again, we're hoping that our teen programs will increase with our new library aide position. Services. We don't only provide services for you to come in and check out books, DVDs. We also have services outside of the library. You can download ebooks, you can download audiobooks, you get online and you can look up newspaper archives from the beginning of Lake Powell Chronicle. So we have some really nice databases that you can do from home. Volunteers making a difference. Wow. We really appreciate our volunteers. We value our volunteers. We could not do the programming we do today without our volunteers. So the Friends of the Library once a year host a volunteer program for our volunteers. And we're hoping that this next year we'll do it community service wide and have all our volunteers come and get them appreciated. Community partnerships. To the left, you can see we have many partnerships that we are able to partner with and bring youth classes to the library, first aid to the library. But for our city, we are hoping to build better partners, stronger partnerships, more partners to double what you see today in the future. I have a list of grants and donations again that we are able to provide services. The picture you see right there is a Charlie cart. We received $10,000 partnering with the community center and the library. It's a mobile kitchen, so we're able to do teen cooking classes, adult cooking demonstrations, and we also received $1,000 to buy early literacy kits for checking out for parents or daycares to come and check out kits. Some of our challenges that we have are with our facilities. Our 2 out of 3 of our buildings are not accessible, handicap accessible. Our staffing levels continue to be a significant change. As Jackie said, with the volunteers, trying to run her program with 3 part-time people and 1 full-time people and manage all those volunteers has been really difficult. But we appreciate our volunteers so much because they bring so much to our communities. Custodial and building maintenance has been an issue for us. We are open, the library and community center is open on Fridays and Saturdays, so we don't have the maintenance department coming in and doing anything for us on those days. So our staff, with the 500-600 people that come in a day, have to also take time to clean restrooms, to vacuum, to clean up. Jackie and I was out doing marking fields this summer for the softball team. So we all pitch in and we all help where we can, but those are some challenges we're seeing. Volunteer management, Jackie already said that, so I'm not going to spend time telling you anything more about that. And customer service. we do provide good customer service, but we could provide greater customer service if we just all had every staffing in the world that we need. And I know that's not possible, but we just want you to be aware of some of our challenges and how much Jackie and I love working with the Community Service Department and the community. And that's what I have.
Mayor, Council, the reason why I brought this department forward is that, as you can see from the program and services, their engagement in this community is huge. It's a community engagement piece, and they don't really get the recognition sometimes of what's involved in the community and their participation. It's a great example of my nana, my grandmother. They have a nickel, and they can stretch that nickel to $1. That's how hard these women work in this department, and I got to give them some kudos as well. Is that they're in our communities, they're hearing our residents, and a big part of Boar City represents this department. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Can I ask her something really quick?
Sure.
Debbie, you talking about structural issues, is that with the library or the community center?
Kind of both. Right now we have, when it rains in the library. We have some just damages to the wall from the rain and stuff like that. And they replaced the roof years and years ago, before my time. That was like 21 years ago, but it still leaks. The community center, go ahead, Kyle, where should we start on that one?
The community center's had so many room additions over the years, it wasn't a complete plan.
We have a beautiful patio at the community center that to get to that patio, you have to go from the dining room to the hallway to the pool room to a program room to a storage room, and then you finally hit the patio. So the patio is not used as much, and Kyle and I are working on a plan to open that up, but like he said, it was pieced together.
Yeah, I would have concern about if we know there's water damage going into one of our buildings, that it should be looked at and is part of our ongoing maintenance. So just be sure that you communicate that properly. But
they are working. They're aware of it, and they are addressing those issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Debbie, Jackie, thank you very, very much for your presentation. I want to take a chance to shout out at the IT. The presentations are a lot better when we got visuals just rather than up there and talking, so we appreciate that too. Thank you. Great photo, by the way. November 1st, Balloon Regatta starts. Come to town and take a look at that. There's one item of business left for the council this evening, and that is executive session for Horseshoe Bend. It's scheduled for discussion and possible action. This is an update to where we are in negotiations to council. It has been on the agenda for a while as we've been working with Park Service. So, executive session. Council may vote to enter into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, 4, and 7 for discussion or consultation with its city attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the city attorney regarding the public's position regarding contracts that are subject of negotiations, discussions, consultations, or designated representatives of the public body in order to consider its position, instruct representatives regarding negotiations for sale, lease, real property. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. We have a motion second to go into executive session. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. 8:15, we're going to go into executive session. And I don't think it's going to be very long this evening, but when we come out, we could have discussion and possible action.